Have you noticed that your eyes change over time? Not the color or shape necessarily, but their acuity. Over time, our vision can decline, leaving our visual connection to the world increasingly at the mercy of LASIK and contacts and glasses, of low light and blue light lenses, and even progressive lenses that correct for multiple age-related issues at once. And it makes me wonder, how much of our biblical tradition would have been changed if only our ancient ancestors had access to ophthalmology? This week's parashah gives us one of the top 10 moments in horrible eyesight that our tradition has to offer. As Cantor Pearsall just chanted for us, "Now Israel's eyes were dim with age, he could not see. So Joseph brought them close to him, and Jacob kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, 'I never expected to see you again, and here God has let me see your children as well.' Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed low with his face to the ground. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right, and brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, even though he was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, thus crossing his hands, although Manasseh was the firstborn." The words, "Israel's eyes were dim with age," should sound familiar to us. It's not the first time we've heard that turn of phrase. It's similar to how Jacob's father Isaac was described earlier in Bereshit, the book of Genesis. Isaac was old, and his eyes had grown dim. In Isaac's case, this description of old age introduces the story of Jacob stealing the blessing of the firstborn from his brother Esau, relying on the dimness of his father's eyes and the advancement of his age to take what wasn't his. As a young man, Jacob, through cunning, took for the younger what was due to the elder. And even now, as an old man, he gives the blessing of the elder to the younger brother when it comes to Joseph's children, Ephraim and Manasseh. But in this final parashah of Genesis, Jacob also breaks from tradition to make a new and significant choice. He prepares blessings for all of his sons. And these multiple blessings extend even to Jacob's grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh, the children of Joseph. Jacob doesn't repeat old mistakes, saving one blessing for his children. He finds blessing enough for all of his male progeny. The blessings that Jacob offers his sons later in this parashah may seem dubious gifts to us today. I encourage you to read these blessings when you get home later. But each one of these blessings reveals a keen insight from a father into the character of his children. It's what we might even call visionary insight. And these blessings reveal that Jacob has learned from the mistakes he has made throughout his long life and is not trying to pass them along to his own children. Isaac's advanced age left him vulnerable to manipulation, but Jacob's advanced age left him with valuable insight. It is Jacob, then, who sets the tone for later generations when old age is understood as something more than the slackening of one's vigor and the dimming of one's eyes. From this point forward, advanced age is associated less in our tradition with feebleness or confusion, and instead with wisdom. Zakein, the word for old, and also, by the way, beard, is used as a title for our elders, those imbued with the wisdom of Moses and Sinai, who are empowered to guide and adjudicate our people in the time between the leadership of Moses and Joshua and the emergence of our prophets. The rabbis of the Talmud even used the descriptions of Isaac and Jacob as zakein to imagine that these patriarchs were so wise that they sat in yeshivas, that their age indicated their cleverness and dedication to learning. Between the time of Jacob and the Talmud and even into today, age in our tradition has become firmly associated with clarity, with insight, and with wisdom. Wisdom, as Jacob could very well teach us, does not result from a life lived perfectly, where every word is carefully chosen, where every relationship is properly nurtured, and where every decision is the right one. It seems to me that it was in his mistakes, his failures, that Jacob learned and grew. It was by trying and wrestling and failing and trying again that he became Israel, the one who wrestles with the world and eventually learns to make better choices. Many of us are familiar with Rabbi Alvin Fine's poem, Life is a Journey. In it, Rabbi Fine teaches that life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to old age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then, perhaps, to wisdom. As we grow from youth to old age, we move from foolishness to discretion only if we learn from the things that we get wrong. Because time will move forward whether we wish it to or not. Nothing can stop time, as Patti Smith wrote. We can use our years to try over and over, and when we inevitably fail, we can consider what went wrong and try again. It can feel like a never-ending cycle. In the immortal words of Nora Ephron, it seems to me that the main thing you learn from a failure is that it's entirely possible you will have another failure. Attempts and failures and defeats can shape our lives, either by making us hard and bitter, or by making us pliable and thoughtful. In other words, it is when we fail over and over and choose to learn from those failures that we finally make that leap from childhood to maturity and from discretion to wisdom. In his old age, Jacob demonstrates his hard-earned wisdom by having more than one blessing to give his sons and grandsons. Unfortunately, he can't see a way to include his only daughter in his largesse, but that's a sermon for another night. But in the passage that we did hear tonight, the dimness of Jacob's sight masks a hard-won clarity of vision. Hidden behind those imperfect, aged eyes, finally, was wisdom. Shabbat shalom.